Something is happening in America's truck market that nobody can quite explain. Overnight, luxury pickups that once symbolized success, power, and pride are being dumped at auction for the price of a used Corolla. A $90,000 0-cents Ford F-250 King Ranch, once the crown jewel of a contractor's fleet, is now going for $16,000. And it's not a scam, it's not a salvage special, it's the real thing. Leather interior, panoramic roof, adaptive cruise, less than 25,000 miles. Because what's unfolding right now is more than a price correction, it's a financial earthquake, a reckoning for an industry that believed it could outsmart reality. Dealers are panicking, banks are freezing credit lines, repo lots are overflowing with nearly new trucks that nobody wants. And if you think this doesn't affect you, think again. Because the ripple effects are spreading to every driveway, every car payment, every insurance claim in the country. Let's rewind. From 2015 to 2023, the price of a new pickup truck exploded, from an average of $38,000 0 cents to over $61,000 0 cents. Automakers didn't just raise prices, they engineered an illusion. Behind the glossy commercials and patriotic slogans was a system built to push Americans deeper into debt. Ford, GM, and Ram flooded the market with luxury trims. King Ranch, Denali, Limited, loaded with features nobody asked for but everyone was told they needed. Meanwhile, wages barely moved. Median household income grew only half as fast as truck prices. Families that once could afford a new pickup suddenly needed 7-year loans, 0% financing, and a little prayer just to keep up with the monthly bill. And while buyers stretched every dollar, Detroit kept cashing bonus checks. Hidden dealer incentives, allocation games, factory spiffs, millions quietly funneled to dealers to move trucks that no one could afford. It worked until it didn't. Across the country, auction yards looked like graveyards of chrome and leather. Rows of 2022 and 2023 trucks, barely broken in, sit in silence, their $90,000 0 cents window stickers still tucked in the glove box, now worth less than a third of their loans. Dealers who once bragged about their allocation quotas are dumping inventory just to survive another month. Bank memos warn of dramatic collateral risk. Lenders are pulling out, insurance payouts are being slashed to match plummeting values. And somewhere in Texas, a man named Mike stands on an auction floor staring at a nearly new King Ranch selling for 16 grand, realizing the game is over. This isn't just about trucks. It's about the illusion of value, the dangers of easy credit, and the collapse of a market that once defined the American dream. Because when $90,000 0 cents trucks are worth $16,000 0 cents, it's not just a sale. It's a signal, a warning, a glimpse into what happens when the system built on borrowed money finally runs out of road. The story begins with disbelief. Across America, luxury pickups that once ruled highways and job sites are suddenly showing up on auction blocks for pennies on the dollar. 2 years ago, a fully loaded Ford F-250 King Ranch stickered at $89,700 0 cents, proudly displayed under the bright lights of dealership showrooms, selling to eager buyers with 7-year loans and promises of investment-grade quality. Today, that same truck sits in a dusty auction lot outside Dallas, its chrome still gleaming, the leather still smelling new, and a starting bid of $16,500 0 cents flickering on the digital board. No salvage title, no accident history, just a truck no one seems to want. In the background, rows of similar vehicles stretch into the horizon. Denalis, Rams, Platinums, all once status symbols, now the collateral of a collapsing market. For a long time, Americans believed pickup trucks were immune to economic downturns. Trucks weren't just vehicles, they were identity, pride, a badge of hard work and independence. Dealers told customers that high-trim pickups would hold their value better than any sedan or SUV. Automakers reinforced that belief with ads showing rugged landscapes, orchestrion soundtracks, and slogans like "Built to Last." But the truth, quietly hidden under layers of marketing gloss, was that the numbers had stopped making sense years ago. From 2015 to 2023, the average price of a new pickup rose 60%, while median income crawled up just 25%. Monthly payments that once hovered around $450.00 exploded to nearly $1,000.00, pushing many buyers past the point of reason. Yet demand didn't slow. It surged, fueled by stimulus money, easy financing, and the illusion that these trucks were appreciating assets rather than depreciating liabilities. The illusion worked beautifully until the market ran out of ordinary people who could play along. Dealers began sitting on inventory for months, then for years. Some truck lots in Texas and Arizona quietly became holding zones where unsold high-trim pickups, King Ranches, Denales, Tungstens, sat under dust covers, waiting for a rebound that never came. At one major auction in late 2024, nearly 400 luxury pickups were listed, most with less than 30,000 miles. Only 40 sold. One 2022 F-150 Platinum with an original MSRP of $84,000.00 drew a high bid of just $15,900.00. The auctioneer's voice echoed across the hall, but no one raised a hand. Behind the scenes, dealers whispered about what was happening. Floor plan lenders were calling daily. Banks that once extended unlimited credit for luxury inventory were now freezing accounts. A confidential memo from a major auto finance company leaked online in March 2025 warned of severe overexposure to high-trim truck assets and instructed auditors to reduce portfolio risk immediately. Within weeks, hundreds of dealerships saw their credit lines slashed. Some closed overnight. For individual buyers, the shock was just as brutal. People like Mike, a Texas contractor who thought he'd outsmarted the market by waiting for prices to fall, discovered that the fall was far worse than anyone imagined. He drove 3 hours to see the F-250 King Ranch, listed for $16,000, convinced it was a mistake. When he arrived, the lot was nearly empty. The few other bidders stood silently, watching trucks roll by like ghosts of another era. The auctioneer called for $17,000. 0 cents, then $16,500, 0 cents, then paused. No hands, no offers. It was as if the market had simply stopped believing in trucks altogether. Industry analysts started calling it the Chrome collapse. In one quarter, luxury pickup values fell an unprecedented 62%. Bank repossessions doubled. Dealers in Florida, Georgia, and California reported record losses on trade-ins. Online forums filled with posts from desperate owners trying to sell $90,000 0 cents trucks for $25,000 0 cents and getting no reply. In Oklahoma, one dealership famously parked 12 unsold Denales in a fenced field and quietly canceled its franchise agreement with GM. The trucks left baking in the sun as a symbol of defeat. The opening chapter of this crisis feels less like a financial correction and more like a reckoning. For decades, Americans were told that buying a top-of-the-line truck was both practical and aspirational, an investment that proved your worth and secured your future. Now those same trucks have become anchors, dragging entire families underwater. The dust on the auction lots isn't just from the wind, it's from the collapse of a dream. The silence after each unsold bid carries a question no one wants to answer. If even the mighty pickup can fall, what's safe anymore? To understand how it worked, you have to look at how the incentives were structured. The factories created layers of bonuses and secret dealer programs that rewarded one thing: ordering high-trim trucks. The more luxury models a dealer took, the more allocation credits they earned. Those credits determined who got priority shipments the next quarter. Refused to play and you risked losing your spot in the supply chain altogether. Dealers in smaller towns were effectively blackmailed into taking six-figure inventory they could barely move just to keep their franchise alive. One former GM dealer from Kansas described the program as a gun to your head wrapped in a rebate check. Meanwhile, the average American paycheck wasn't keeping up. Between 2015 and 2023, median household income rose only about 25%. Adjusted for inflation, the real increase was closer to 12%. Yet automakers behaved as if the country had entered a new golden age of prosperity. The average auto loan for a truck or SUV jumped from $31,000 to $47,000 in less than a decade, and the average loan term stretched to nearly 85 months. 7-year financing became normal. Dealers pushed balloon payment offers to make the impossible look affordable. By 2021, nearly 60% of new truck buyers were spending more than half their monthly take-home pay on vehicle expenses: loans, insurance, fuel, and maintenance combined. Financial advisors warned that the math didn't add up, but the marketing machine was unstoppable. Ford's Own the Road campaign and Ram's Luxury Without Limit spots painted these trucks as milestones of success, not reckless purchases. They sold aspiration, not utility. Behind the curtain, each truck was generating enormous profit. Ford and GM were making an estimated $15,000 to $18,000 per high-trim pickup. Ram's margins on its limited models were rumored to exceed 30%, but there was another layer: the dark money of dealer cash. Between 2020 and 2023, factory-to-dealer incentive payments doubled, some reaching $12,000 per truck. This cash wasn't public. It was buried in spreadsheets labeled marketing support or volume performance bonus. Dealers who chased those rewards learned how to play the system. They'd order more trucks than they could sell, then rely on manufacturer rebates and end-of-year buybacks to survive. It was a cycle of inflated sales figures and artificial demand, a house of cards built on borrowed money. The consumer side of the equation was no less fragile. Buyers were told that these trucks would hold value like gold. Finance managers repeated the myth that you can always trade it in for what you owe. Banks and captive lenders looked the other way, approving loans at record loan-to-value ratios, sometimes 120% or higher. Subprime lending quietly crept back into the market, especially in southern states where trucks were cultural staples. According to one independent report from the National Auto Finance Bureau, by late 2023, nearly 1 in 5 luxury truck loans was considered high risk. Then inflation hit. Interest rates climbed, fuel costs spiked, and suddenly that $900 monthly payment became a burden instead of a badge of pride. The average American was spending $150 more per month on gas and groceries than a year earlier, and something had to give. Trucks stopped selling. Inventory started piling up. Automakers responded the only way they knew how: doubling incentives, lowering credit standards, and whispering to dealers to just move the metal. But by then the illusion was already cracking. The price bubble wasn't just unsustainable, it was actively collapsing under its own weight. Every shiny new King Ranch or Denali rolling off the line was another reminder of how far the market had drifted from reality. What began as a marketing triumph was quietly turning into a financial trap, and the people who believed most deeply in the American truck dream were about to pay the price. Manheim, Dallas, the largest dealer auction in Texas, became ground zero for the unraveling. Every Thursday, convoys of nearly new pickups arrived by the hundreds, their transport tags still attached, some with the window stickers still tucked in glove compartments. The air in the auction lanes felt thick with disbelief. Auctioneers who used to rattle off 6-figure numbers now struggled to draw a single bid above $17,000, 0 cents. A 2022 F250 Platinum with 19,000 miles hammered at $15,800, 0 cents. No sale. A Ram 2500 Limited with a flawless history pulled a single offer at $16,200, 0 cents. Bidders stood back, arms crossed, waiting for someone else to catch the falling knife. After a few weeks, many stopped showing up at all. The silence was more powerful than any chant. The situation behind the scenes was worse. Lenders had seen the same numbers and were already pulling back. Confidential memos from Ally and Santander circulated among dealers, warning that luxury truck exposure represents critical risk to collateral integrity. In plain language, that meant banks no longer trusted that their loans were worth the metal they were written against. Credit lines were slashed overnight. Dealerships found themselves unable to order new vehicles, unable to refinance old ones, and unable to keep paying interest on the trucks they couldn't move. Some dealerships simply locked their doors and walked away, leaving rows of gleaming, unsold pickups abandoned in the sun. In Missouri, one Ford dealer left a handwritten sign on his showroom window: "Closed indefinitely. Tell Detroit I'm sorry." For those who didn't walk away, desperation took creative forms. Dealers began ghost wholesaling, selling trucks to shell companies to create the illusion of movement and reset their floor plan clocks. Others shipped unsold inventory out of state, hoping different regional markets might absorb the losses. It didn't work. Within weeks, the glut spread from Texas and Florida to the Midwest and West Coast. By summer, every major auction yard in America was choking on unsold, overfinanced pickups. Prices continued to fall. Analysts at Auto Data Group reported that the average wholesale value of luxury trucks had dropped 71% from their 2022 peak. The term market correction no longer fit. This was a total breakdown in confidence. The human side of the crisis unfolded quietly at first. Repo agents started working double shifts, crisscrossing suburbs before dawn. They didn't need to look for rusted-out beaters anymore. Now they were hauling away brand-new $90,000 zero-cents trucks from gated neighborhoods. One repo operator in Phoenix described entire cul-de-sacs where multiple trucks were repossessed in a single night. Some owners tried to hide their vehicles behind barns or under car covers. Others simply handed over the keys and walked back inside. Many of them weren't reckless spenders or show-offs. They were electricians, contractors, small business owners who had believed the sales pitch that their trucks were tools and investments rolled into one. Now those investments were anchors, pulling them into bankruptcy. As the repos piled up, insurance companies quietly adjusted their payout tables. Because most use auction data to determine actual cash value, they began slashing claim settlements to match the falling market. When a truck was totaled or stolen, owners found themselves receiving checks for $15,000, 0 cents, or $16,000, 0 cents. On vehicles with $60,000, 0 cents, in outstanding loans. Gap insurance, once the safety net for situations like this, was riddled with fine print exclusions for extraordinary market fluctuations. Owners discovered too late that they were on the hook for tens of thousands of dollars even after losing their trucks. Bankruptcy filings citing vehicle deficiencies spiked 38% nationwide in the first half of 2025. The chaos didn't stop with individuals. Banks, now overloaded with repossessed inventory, began quietly offloading them through third-party liquidation networks. Entire parking lots in Atlanta, Denver, and Phoenix were converted into overflow storage zones for repossessed trucks. Satellite photos leaked online showed hundreds of rows of silver, black, and white pickups lined up like tombstones in a field. Economists compared the images to the infamous car graveyards of the 2008 recession. By late summer, more than 300,000 high-trim trucks were sitting unsold across the country. Prices continued to fall by the week, not the month. Meanwhile, the first lawsuits began to surface. In Texas, a group of truck owners filed a class action against a major automaker, alleging that the company knowingly inflated residual values and misled buyers with claims that their trucks would retain premium resale worth. In Florida, another lawsuit targeted a lender for approving predatory loans based on falsified income data. The courts became clogged with similar cases, each trying to assign blame for the same financial disaster. Automakers blamed the economy, lenders blamed consumers, and consumers blamed everyone. But beneath the legal noise, the core problem was clear. The system had been built on unrealistic expectations, and when those expectations collapsed, so did everything else. The social atmosphere changed too. Once, driving a King Ranch or a Denali was a mark of pride. Now it was a symbol of foolishness. People began selling their trucks privately out of embarrassment, replacing them with cheaper models like the Ford Maverick or Toyota Tacoma. In small towns across the Midwest, car meetups that once featured lifted F-250S and chrome-plated Rams turned into gatherings of compact hybrids and used SUVs. The culture around trucks. The ads, the lifestyle, the myth of the American workhorses suddenly felt hollow. Even the automakers sensed it. By late 2025, Ford had cut production of its luxury trims by 40%. GM suspended Denali marketing campaigns, and Ram introduced a new line of essential models stripped of all luxury features, priced under $40,000 0 cent. But the damage was already done. The collapse of the luxury truck market didn't just wipe out billions in equity, it eroded trust. Ordinary Americans who once saw trucks as safe and familiar now viewed them as traps. Dealers, once pillars of local economies, were closing by the hundreds. Finance companies were tightening credit so severely that even qualified buyers were being turned away. Economists warned that the shock would ripple far beyond automotive retail, affecting construction, lending, and insurance for years to come.